Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today's the first practice since the loss to Michigan State. Very curious to see how everything goes today. Manny Diaz talked a lot about changes. Rhett Lashlee did too, heading into practices. So we'll see if there's anything that we notice. We're only able to be out here for maybe 15 minutes or so. So we might not notice anything that's really happening. Also be paying attention to the intensity. These are just some things that obviously need to correct. It just comes down to doing things differently than they've done in the past if they want different results. So we'll see if there's anything done differently in practice with practice habits and drills or whatever. And there's obviously personnel moves that they can make too. We'll see if we can notice any of that. I think the biggest thing to watch for today, D'Eriq King dealing with a shoulder injury. I'd be surprised if he played against Central Connecticut State. That means Tyler Van Dyke, Jake Garcia are up next, just like they were in the spring. So we'll see how they look today in practice. And obviously if D'Eriq's out there, certainly we'll be paying close attention to him. And looking ahead, Virginia's just right around the corner with that Thursday night game coming up on the 30th. So we'll see how everything goes today. Definitely thanks for watching. So we're just getting out here for session 5. Usually we're out here for session 4, but we weren't able to see it. They were doing some team stuff, which is typical. We don't usually get to see the team stuff at this point. So we're just watching some drills. Here's a quarterback situation here. Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia. Don't see D'Eriq King obviously out here. Once again, I'd be surprised if he played Saturday. It's going to be a good opportunity for the young quarterbacks, just like it was in the spring. That's Peyton Matocha. I think some of you have asked sometimes about jersey numbers. Some of these guys wear different numbers during the week to replicate the scout team and the other team's players. And number 4, as you guys know, if you guys watched the video, the interview with Romello Williams, the starting quarterback for Central Connecticut State, shout out to everybody who watched that, but he wears number 4, so Peyton's taking on that. Going to watch a little bit more of the quarterbacks before we kind of go to different positions. And one of the things Manny Diaz and Rhett Lashlee talked about quite a bit yesterday was just that they want to see some changes in practices. And it's hard to see that with what we get to see. But I will say, as we were outside the fence, not able to look in, we could hear a lot of guys fired up and things like that, for whatever it's worth, obviously. Just letting you guys listen to Coach Likens, obviously upset right there with one of those reps.
Right now, don't let him stack you. Stay on top of the receiver.
What I was saying with the intensity and energy, it can't be a one-day thing. And obviously you don't want this to happen before losses pile up. So we'll see if it makes any difference.
Don't let him stack you, Connor. It's okay to be a little bit early and get out of there, corner. Don't let him stack you. Right there.
Between these two quarterbacks, I've said it quite a number of times, but I expect Tyler, to stay in that backup role in the coaches' minds. I just think Jake's a better player, just from what I've seen, and it's just kind of my opinion. So we'll see if there's any separation on Saturday for whatever it's worth. Against an opponent like that, it's always tough to evaluate and maybe quantify exactly what the results are and how they would look, because the key will obviously be which quarterback will play if D'Eriq can't go against Virginia on the 30th there. Redding with the drop there. And Rambo. Just taking a look at Rambo here. If you guys have watched these practice videos, I've talked about his drops, but definitely a good sign last game that he was able to make a number of catches, tied the school record with 12 receptions. Certainly you want to see him build on that, not necessarily for this game, but just ACC play coming up. And take a look at Charleston more. So good speed, and the thing about that game last week, he was having some really good drives, and it just felt like they should have almost even gone to him more. They were really giving up those short routes, those hitch routes. Couldn't stop him at all. It certainly seemed like they could have even gone to him even more than they did, which is kind of crazy to say. So here we are, we're taking a look at the defensive backs. Just working on basic tackling, kind of a wrap up. It's just like an instant hit. A lot of teams do this. I see high school teams do this drill quite a bit. Just really working on striking and hitting the right angles. You know, one of the things with tackling, or whatever it might be, obviously they're talking a lot about tackling. You've seen the article, the worst tackling team in the country at this point. So they definitely want to get some things corrected here. But a message that kind of stands out to me about things that aren't going right, whether it's tackling, physicality, whatever it might be. Kind of a message for coaches, and the mentality is you're either coaching it or you're teaching it. Either way, if you're not coaching them to tackle bad or teaching it that way, you got to correct it, is ultimately. So for coaches, you're either coaching it or you're teaching it. It's kind of a mentality thing, especially on something like this. Kind of reminds me of that with this missed tackle stuff. And I do want to just make a quick mention. Obviously, Bubba Bolden, still waiting for him to play at that upper echelon level that we saw at the beginning of early last season. And then Gervin Hall's had his struggles too. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys bounce back. Not just, you know, with this game coming up, I hate putting a lot of emphasis on it. It's not necessarily this season, just in general. This kind of opponent, when you face an opponent like this. For years, I've always had the mentality of not really putting a lot into it before or after the game. So I don't want to emphasize it too much, but obviously the keys for Miami is to get ready and get a lot of things fixed before they face Virginia at home on a Thursday night to start ACC play. If not, they'll lose that game and then likely lose at North Carolina too. So that's what they're staring at right now if they don't get things corrected. I think you guys see it too, things you've seen, they don't get things corrected. If the same issues continue, this team will be 2-4.
Be no contact. Gotta get more physical. Be no contact. Good, here we go. Wait your feet. That's good. Wait your feet. Wait your feet. Wait your feet.
Going inside the indoor facility, I'm not going to film in there. Let them have that time. But I don't know if you guys heard Coach Robinson say, as he passed by, was just have to be more physical. And I think that's something that we'll hear quite a bit moving forward. And taking a look at the defensive line, go through some drills. 56, that's Leonard Taylor. And still hasn't played yet. You know, second-year freshman Elijah Roberts plays a different position there on the defensive line, but he was able to get in last week. So they end up going with 9 defensive linemen in the game. They've been kind of going with 8 pretty much each game. That's what they like to do, and the reps are pretty similar. You know, kind of a 60-40 split, something like that for the starters and backups. And it seems like when Coach Simpson was talking, they still plan on doing that. And there's Nesta, Jade Silvera. You know, Chance Williams is a guy, if I can see him here, but he wears number 33. But I think he stood out to you guys. You know, in each game, he's playing about 15 reps a game. But in each game, he's made a big play, whether it's a sack, batted pass. He's just making big plays, and I don't know how you can look at that production and not give him more playing time.
Accept the challenge, fellas.
Some of you guys are curious about Avante. Here he is right here, scout team number 1. Again, serving that 6-game suspension.
Good, water down, water down, water down, water down, water down. Good, DVD. I got ball.
So it's going to put him out past the North Carolina game. So I can show you guys a few reps. I think some of you guys are curious about him. See how he looks.
Hey, step, 3 step. Locate the target. Bubble first. Bubble first. Good. There you go. So kick it. Good. Good. Here we go. Slide. 3 steps here. There you go. Kick that G. There go.
I think James Williams is a player to watch for in this game. The guy that will certainly look to get as much playing time as possible and could be one of those launching points for his career, honestly.
There you go. Good. There you go. Yeah, we got that. Find that. Good. There you go.
And there's Cam Kitchens there, 24.
There you go. Good. Here we go. Watch that over the door. There you go. Good. Locate the spot. There you go. Get out of there. Well, you got work. Good. Here we go. Working right here. Hey, Bubba. Ball on the 5-yard line.
Just sticking with the defensive backs a little bit longer. I do want to rotate back. We're almost out of time here, so I don't want to stay only on the defensive backs. One of the things that's tough too, though, when we're out here is it's typically the receivers and defensive backs who we get to see up close. So it's just easier, but there's a look at the linebackers. There's Corey Flagg and Wayman Steed. You see Brooks there, Jennings. The talk last week was Avery Huff. He didn't get in much. Wayman Steed actually played the most snaps of any of the linebackers. And I think that's kind of the theme of what we heard from last week, whether we thought Leonard Taylor might break through because he wasn't wearing the scout team uniform, or whether it was Cody Brown, moving up to the depth chart to number 2, or a guy like Avery Huff. Those guys just didn't play, or didn't play much at all. Kind of switching over back to the receivers. There's a look at Brashard Smith, 12. He's the guy that with the burst, and that's a nice catch. Looked like he kept that off the ground, but just a guy that can make plays in different ways, and he's someone that you would think that in terms of maybe getting a spark for the offense, find ways to use a Brashard, either in the passing game or even get him carries at times. Just you can move him around. The biggest attribute he has, in addition to his physical attributes, is just that he can create mismatches and give your offense a little bit more dynamic. So we got just about a minute left, and maybe try to get you a sneak at the offensive line. Clear on the other side of the field. The offensive line is always tough to see in practices. I remember in spring ball in 2020, before things got shut down, they actually let us go down there for a practice and get some good video and photos. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet here. It's always tough to get a look at them, and this is kind of very similar footage that we're able to get here, but just a few clips if there's anything you guys can catch. As we wrap up the final session, a quick one today, about 15 minutes, but got to see a little bit of things. Definitely thank everybody for watching.